The Veyrani were not a violent species. Their civilization had blossomed across the twilight plains of Murin for thousands of years without a single war, without the fire of conquest staining their history. Their cities, sculpted from living crystal, reflected the soft glow of their distant sun. They believed in harmony, knowledge, and the quiet strength of unity. But the galaxy was not built on harmony. It was built on power. And power, when left unchecked, always found the weak. The Zorak Consortium had scoured the outer reaches of the galaxy for vulnerable worlds, and the Veyrani, they saw prey. No fleets, no weapons, no allies. The Veyrani were little more than a garden waiting to be plucked. Their world held rich deposits of crystalline resources, rare enough to fetch fortunes on the galactic markets. The Zorak saw no reason to ask, no reason to negotiate. They would take what they wanted, and no one would stop them. At least, that's what they believed. Everything changed the day the Veyrani sheltered a human. His name was Ethan Voss, commander in the Terran Defense Authority, survivor of the Destroyer Vanguard. His ship had been ambushed at the edge of Zorak-controlled space, and in the chaos of battle, his escape pod had crashed onto Murin's surface. Broken, half-conscious, and alone, he had stumbled to the crystalline forest, expecting death. Instead, he found compassion. The Veyrani were not fools. They knew the reputation of humanity. Apex predators, death-worlders, dangerous beyond reason. But when they found Ethan lying beneath the shattered trees, bleeding and delirious, they didn't hesitate. They carried him to their city. They healed his wounds. They sheltered him. And in doing so, they unknowingly invoked Earth's oldest, most unyielding law. The day the Zorak fleet arrived, the skies over Lysera turned black. Hundreds of warships descended from orbit, their metallic hulls blotting out the sun, casting long, ominous shadows over the crystalline city. Veyrani citizens gathered in the central plaza, fear in their eyes as they watched the invaders approach. Governor Talvares, leader of the Veyrani, stood beside Ethan atop the highest balcony, his translucent skin shimmering with anxiety. "We cannot stop them," Talvares said softly, his voice like wind through glass. "There is no escape for my people." Ethan stood tall despite the lingering limp in his leg and the scars that marked his side. His Terran uniform, tattered but still bearing the insignia of Earth, clung to him like a second skin. His gaze never left the darkening sky. "They made a mistake coming here," Ethan replied, his voice calm, steady, lethal. Talvares tilted his head in confusion. "You said your people are far away. You are stranded." Ethan finally turned to him, the faintest edge of a smile on his face. "I told you before, by sheltering me, you invoked Earth's protection. It doesn't matter how far away they are." Above, the first of the Zorak dropships broke the atmosphere, engines screaming as they descended toward the capital. High in orbit, aboard the Zorak flagship Iron Fist, Admiral Kravox watched the invasion unfold with satisfaction. His exoskeletal mandibles clicked in amusement as he observed the peaceful world beneath them. No resistance, no ships, no weapons, just a soft, glittering world ripe for the taking. One human on the surface, reported his second-in-command, a reptilian officer with dull, scaled skin. Kravox's eyes narrowed slightly. "Alone?" "Yes, Admiral. A survivor of the Terran Defense Authority. No warships nearby. No communication signals." Kravox let out a low, guttural laugh. "Terrans are formidable, but even they bleed when isolated. Begin planetary subjugation." On the ground, the dropships roared toward Lysera. Veyrani civilians huddled together, their wide, glassy eyes reflecting terror. Ethan stood unmoving, eyes fixed on the heavens, hand resting lightly on the grip of his sidearm, a weapon woefully inadequate for what was coming. But he wasn't waiting for a fight. He was waiting for a promise to be fulfilled. The promise of Earth. The sky fractured. It began as a ripple, a faint distortion in the upper atmosphere, like heat warping the horizon. Then, with sudden, brutal clarity, the void split open. Terran warships emerged from the rift like predators slipping from shadows. Sleek, angular, obsidian vessels bristling with weapons and shield arrays. They move with purpose, silent, predatory, inevitable. The largest of them, The TDS Retribution eclipsed the sun, its presence alone casting the city below in eerie twilight. Talvaris gasped, his crystalline skin pulsing faintly in disbelief. "Your people, they came?" Ethan's eyes gleamed. "We never leave our own behind." On the Zorak flagship, alarms blared. Officers scrambled as the Terran fleet's signatures flooded their sensors. Kravox's mandibles clicked in confusion and rage. Impossible. Their nearest fleet is weeks away. The transmission from the Retribution silenced the bridge. It was short, clinical, devoid of emotion. This planet provided sanctuary to a citizen of Earth. Any act of aggression will be met with overwhelming force. You have 60 seconds to retreat. Kravox seethed, pride and panic battling for control. He knew the Terran reputation. He had heard the stories. The shattered moons, the silenced empires, the fleets reduced to drifting wreckage. The Terrans were not conquerors by nature, but they were defenders beyond reason. "Orders, Admiral?" the reptilian officer pressed. Kravox glared at the Terran fleet, calculating, and for the first time in his career, the great predator tasted fear. "Signal to retreat." Kravox spat. The Zorak ships peeled away from the planet, engines flaring as they fled into deep space. The Terran fleet remained, unmoving, watching, ensuring. On the surface, the Veyrani citizens erupted into relief, their crystalline forms glowing faintly with hope. Talvaris turned Ethan, wonder in his voice. "All of this for you?" Ethan shook his head. "Not for me. For the promise." 3 days later, Murat officially entered the Terran Protection Accord. The agreement was simple, brutal in its clarity. Any species that sheltered a human in need was henceforth under Earth's defense umbrella. To harm them was to invite the full weight of humanity's military machine. The Veyrani world transformed almost overnight. Terran engineers constructed planetary shields, orbital defense stations, and listening arrays. Medical teams eradicated centuries-old diseases. Trade opened. Veyrani crystal for Terran alloys, culture for technology, knowledge for unity. But more than shields and ships, it was the unspoken reputation that guarded Murat now. The galaxy watched. The Zorak's humiliation spread through the void like wildfire. Predators, pirates, empires, all took notice. To harm those under Terran protection was to gamble with extinction. 1 year later, the crystal cities of Murat glittered brighter than ever. Human and Veyrani worked side by side, allies in science, trade, and culture. Ethan Voss remained as Earth's ambassador, a living symbol of the price and reward of compassion. Talvaris often stood with him on the high balconies, watching the sun set across the crystalline plains. He never forgot the fear that gripped his people, nor the promise fulfilled when the Terran fleet arrived. The galaxy learned a lesson that day, etched in the silent orbit of Terran warships, in the unwavering resolve of a species known not only for its ferocity, but for its loyalty. You shelter one human. You shelter all of them. And in the cold, unforgiving void, there were few shields more unbreakable than that.